We have been going division by division, looking at every single MLB team's offseason, breaking down the guys leaving, the guys coming in, and figuring out whether they got better, whether they got worse, are they still about the same team? We've gone through the NL East, the AL East, the NL Central, the AL Central, the NL West, and finally today we wrap up with the AL West, baby. I finally get to talk about my team. This is Smarter Baseball, where we deep dive into everything going on throughout Major League Baseball. Show your support for the channel by liking the video, subscribing to the page, turning on notifications, follow on these social medias. Let's hit 1,000 subscribers by spring training. That would be a great way to start off this new season. I would really appreciate it, and I've appreciated all of the support you guys have shown so far. Thank you so much for riding with me, riding with this channel. Let's get into it. We're breaking down the AL West today. We're looking at all of the guys that are leaving these teams, if they played somewhat of a significant role on the roster. 30, 40 games. Maybe they're a guy that's been in the league for a couple of years at least. Somebody to kind of pay attention to. Also then taking a look at the guys that are coming in, the guys projected by Fangraph's roster resource page to make the 26-man roster. Not gonna sit here and talk about every single transaction, every single guy coming in, coming out, or really covering any re-signings or anything like that. In my head, that's just the team staying relatively the same then. You're keeping the same guy on the roster. So when we get done and then decide, did this team get better? Did they get worse? Or are they about the same? Like I said, we're only then talking about the guys that are leaving and the guys coming in. So let's go ahead, take a look at this. And we're starting off here with the Houston Astros. Big losses for them. First, you've got Yuli Gurriel, main first baseman last year, 146 games, a 648 OPS, 85 WRC plus, negative .9 FWAR last year. First base is bat first. You don't care too much about the fielding. When you're not getting a whole lot of offense here from your first baseman, that's going to kind of cost you. Big need here for the Astros. We'll go ahead and get back to that in a second. You've got Diaz, Castro, Vasquez, Mancini, all also kind of these bench guys filling some roles here. Diaz kind of bounced around a lot in a utility role here. 92 games, 96 WRC plus. And then, like we said, Castro, Vasquez, both kind of in these backup catcher roles. Castro first, Vasquez comes over at the deadline, as well as Mancini coming over to kind of play this, spot, backup first base, getting some DH. Big one here, though, for the Astros. You've got Justin Verlander, the reigning AL Cy Young winner, headed out of town. 28 starts, 175 innings with a 1.75 ERA. Don't know how he matched that so well. 2.49 FIP, 6.1 FWAR. Again, 5 for WAR is like all-star level, so very, very deserving of that Cy Young award there. That's a big loss for any team, and we'll get more specifically into this in a second. Will Smith, also reliever, 22 innings last year with the Astros, 3.27 ERA, a 2.66 FIP. Very, very solid guy out of the bullpen there. Who do they bring in to address their needs? Really only Jose Abreu, and very, very good player here at first base. One of the better first basemen in the league. 157 games with an 824 OPS, 138 WRC plus, 3.9 FWAR. So just a little bit below that like all-star level. Again, WAR is not everything. It's not the one like end-all be-all stat, but definitely a very good player here. Good offensive numbers, and this was even a bit of a down year for him. The slugging kind of down this last year. Still very good WRC plus. Fills a big need for this team, like we said. So when we kind of talk about the Astros here, like I said, for any team, man, losing the Cy Young is a big deal. That's the best pitcher in the league this last year, in the AL, not all of baseball. That's arguable. Abreu, very, very good player, good offense. Again, even if we see that slugging kind of bounce back up again, could be even better than he was this last year. Fills a very, very big need for this team. They lose a couple of catchers, also a big need on this team, but then that kind of opens up the spot here for, you've got the number 4 prospect in the Astros organization, Corey Lee, slotted to be more in that backup role, at least to start out. He kind of now gets this runway to be able to start to take this job from Martin Maldonado. Smith was a very good reliever for you last year, but losing one reliever is not the end of the world. On paper though, man, like, I know the Astros have a ton of starting pitching. Not gonna deny that fact. And I'm also not gonna deny the fact that Abreu fills a very, very big need for this team. But if we're just talking on paper, value-wise, I don't think you can look me in the eye and say that Jose Abreu is a better player than Justin Verlander. So I would have to say that I think the Astros overall, talent-wise, are a little bit worse this year now because of this, but they are more balanced. They filled a big, big need that they had, and like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're not still one of, if not the best teams in baseball this upcoming year. They won the World Series this last year with an overabundance of starting pitching and this big hole at first base. Swapping these guys out doesn't drastically change this team. They're still really, really good. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Angels. Big losses here, or not really actually any big losses, I would say, but guys leaving here. You've got Kurt Suzuki, backup catcher, 51 games, negative .8 FWAR. Duffy, also kind of this backup infield, 77 games, a 619 OPS, 78 WRC plus, negative .1 FWAR. So both of these guys offensively actually kind of costing you this last year. You've also got Michael Lorenzen leaving from this rotation, 18 games only this last year, 97 2/3 innings, 4.24 ERA, 4.31 FIP. Kind of fits more in the back of a rotation. 4th guy, maybe 5th, depending how deep your rotation is. Hopefully, if he gives you a full season, just giving you a ton of innings, maybe not the highest quality, but can kind of eat some innings. Archie Bradley coming out of this bullpen, really the like more important reliever here of the two. 18 2/3 innings, 4.82 ERA is really high. But the 3.33 FIP is a pretty solid number there, so maybe still something there with him. 4 guys that they bring in then. For the Angels, you've got Hunter Renfroe comes in, 125 games last year, 807 OPS, 124 WRC plus, 2.5 FWAR, so above the 2 for starter level. Really good bat out there, solid everyday kind of player. Same as, we'll just jump ahead to Gio Urshela there, 144 games, 767 OPS, 119 WRC plus, 2.4 FWAR. Both of these guys kind of fit that bat first, but still solid everyday type of player. These are guys definitely kind of, help hold a lineup together. Good to bring them in. Brandon Drury also kind of fit into this, but this was a noticeable uptick year for him. Kind of, we'll get to in a second, but seeing whether he keeps up these kind of numbers going into next year. 138 games, 812 OPS, 123 WRC plus, and 3 FWAR. Again, bat first, very solid everyday guy, but just doesn't quite have the track record there. Brett Phillips comes in, fill backup outfield role here, 83 games, 38 WRC plus, but still somehow 0.1 FWAR, so still positive. Must have been busting his ass there defensively in the outfield. Hopefully you get more offense out of him, but at least that defense is still there to kind of come in late in a game, defensive replacement in the outfield. Tyler Anderson comes into this rotation, 30 games, 178 and 2/3 innings, 2.57 ERA, 3.31 FIP. Real, I don't know what you want to call it, bounce back, breakout, whatever kind of year with the Dodgers here. Again, gonna have to see, does he maintain this going forwards? Does he take a little bit of a step back? And then Estevez comes into the bullpen, 57 innings, 3.47 ERA is pretty good, 4.08 FIP, a little bit higher, so see whether that kind of levels out a bit in the end here. Overall here for the Angels, I mean, pretty clear on paper. I mean, you lose just a couple backups, a rotation guy, late rotation guy, some bullpen. Renfroe and Urshela come in as those solid bat first, everyday starter kind of guys. Drury, Anderson, again, very solid this last year, very good this last year. Whether they kind of take a step back and they're more just solid glue guys, or they kind of stay where they were at, maybe they found something that works for them. But I mean, all of these guys that they bring in at least kind of fill some roles here for you. Maybe they don't blow you away, but you're not really losing anything on the flip side. I mean, Angels end up getting noticeably better here, but unfortunately, the curse of Artie Moreno lives on, so I'm sorry, Angels fans, when you guys probably end up finishing fourth because of that. But at least the team got better, right? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on, and we're going to Oakland, to an even better run franchise. Sarcasm is great. Here we go. Losing main piece here, Sean Murphy, traded over to the Braves. Talked about the trade when it happened, talked about it in the NL East video there. 148 games for a catcher is absolutely wild to think about. 758 OPS, 122 WRC plus, 5.1 FWAR, so right at that all-star level. I think that was like third in the league in FWAR for catchers with 500 innings. Murphy's one of the better catchers in baseball. Losing him is a big loss. Also send out a couple of bench guys here. The one I'm going to talk about real quick, Stephen Vogt. Hell of a career. I'm so happy that he gets to retire, go out on his own terms. I actually got to take lessons from him in high school when he was a minor leaguer with the Rays. So not that I really know him all that much or anything, but it's been so cool to just get to watch his career unfold the way it has. Congrats on retirement. I'm so happy for him. For the A's now, back to bad news. We've got Cole Irvin just getting traded out now. 30 starts, 181 innings, 3.98 ERA, 4.21 FIP. Again, kind of more in this like fourth starter kind of a role, innings eater more, maybe kind of keeps you in some ball games. But I mean, the A's just shipping out any kind of talent here that they have. A couple of relievers on their way out as well. Payamps here, kind of the big one, 55 and 2/3 innings, 3.23 ERA, really good, but 4.24 FIP, a little bit higher. Who do they bring in then? They go ahead and add really just, again, a bunch of kind of bench guys here. Aguilar had negative .4 FWAR in 129 games last year. Peterson was relatively solid, 2.2 FWAR in 113 games, but a 698 OPS and 96 WRC plus. Point more towards most of that was defense, which at third base is definitely good to have, but you know, you'd also like to kind of have a bit of a bat at the corner infield, so ideally getting a little bit more offense out of him. You've got Diaz coming over from the Astros, we kind of talked about in that utility role. Ruiz, a fairly decent prospect here as well, coming over. Gone over him in a previous video, and I'm trying to remember. Most of his time in the minors, very good with the bat. The approach still kind of had some work to do, so see how that ends up playing out once he gets, really established a little bit more in the majors here. Just kind of debuting this last season, 17 games, negative .3 FWAR, so not the best start for him. Pena comes over also in the deal with the Braves, backup type catcher role here. Also have a Rule 5 pick, again, which I talked about in one video. I'll cover real quick. Basically, teams have their 40-man roster. Those guys are protected from the Rule 5 draft after about 4 or 5 years, just kind of depending in the minors from when a guy first comes into professional baseball. They're protected for those first couple of years. Once that protection is up, they're Rule 5 eligible. Teams can then draft them in the Rule 5 draft in January. If they do, they have to keep them on the active 26-man Major League roster for the whole upcoming season, or the team that had them before gets to take them back. The A's here have a Rule 5 first baseman outfielder, Ryan Noda. Probably getting that wrong. Been over this. I get names wrong all the time. I would spend all day looking up pronunciations for names if that was what I was going to spend my time on. So Rule 5 pick here. See how that ends up playing out. Also got a couple starting pitchers coming over here from the Korean Baseball League, from Japan. Yet to be seen kind of how that ends up playing out then. So they've got some professional experience, but Major League Baseball's a whole other world than, these other leagues. So see how those work out for them. And then Trevor May comes over for the bullpen, 25 innings, 5.04 ERA, but a 3.87 FIP is fairly decent. See if that ends up kind of leveling out a little bit more for him in Oakland here. Mainly, man, you can't trade away Sean Murphy, a player of that kind of caliber, and make that up very easily. Big loss sending him out. You get the younger guys back that you get for him. You get the younger guys back for Irvin that you do, who, again, not blowing you away, but at least a decent innings eater type starter. You get Peterson in, but again, mainly just kind of a glove first guy. Really, this team just gets younger. They trade away any shred of this major league talent that they have. They get some kind of prospects back, and just the tank is rolling through in Oakland. That's what's going on here. Please, dear God, get them some new ownership. Get them somewhere. I'm not gonna say out of Oakland, but just get them somewhere where this team can actually try to be competitive for once, instead of having to constantly be rebuilding. Okay. Now I get to talk about my team, the Seattle Mariners. Big losses here, heading out of town. You've got second baseman Adam Frazier, kind of supposed to be that everyday second baseman this last year. 156 games, 612 OPS, 81 WRC plus. Really underperforming there. He's a very contact heavy, slap, just put the ball in play kind of a guy. And then when BABIP's not going his way, which it definitely did this last year, and you just can't buy a base hit to fall in, that's where we see these numbers go down for him. Jesse Winker also kind of coming over in a trade here before the regular season starting last year. 136 games, 688 OPS. Weird enough, both his on base and slugging were 344, exactly even there. But a 109 WRC plus, mainly because of that on base percentage. And really just the approach was still there, not striking out a ton, walking a bunch. But when he did have to swing the bat, just you could tell something was off. Just a lot of kind of lazier pop flies and stuff than you're used to seeing from him. If you want something more real in-depth with him, this is actually the first video that I did on this channel, was breaking down what the hell was going on with Jesse this last year. So I'll link that in the description. Go ahead, check that out if you want. Mitch Haniger in the outfield as well. 57 games this last year, because he's really kind of struggled with injuries and staying healthy, staying on the field, especially in his time with Seattle. But when he does play, 737 OPS, 113 WRC plus, pretty good power hitter there, had like 40 home runs this last year, or 2021, last year, whatever. Very good power hitting outfield there. The problem again is just when he can stay on the field. Mariners bring in Carlos Santana halfway through, kind of fills this DH role, 79 games, 693 OPS, but most of that being power as well, 102 WRC plus. Gonna see how the shift going away impacts guys like this. Really interesting to see there. And then you got a handful of kind of these more potential type guys, some like former prospects that just hadn't really panned out yet. Abraham Toro, 109 games, 62 WRC plus, negative 0.7 FWAR. Kyle Lewis, 2020 Rookie of the Year, 18 games this last season, 530 OPS, 56 WRC plus. This guy's just been ravaged by injuries, especially it's a knee injury that keeps getting him. He just couldn't even really run down to first base this last year, man. It was just hard to watch. Hopefully he gets healthy. Hopefully he bounces back. When he's been healthy and can hit like he can, very, very good player. Hopefully he bounces back. Terens also never really kind of made the most of the opportunities he's gotten to be able to be the catcher. Tom Murphy getting hurt. Then Cal Raleigh, big dumper, comes in, takes that spot over. Terens now on his way out, as well as Kurt Casale, who they brought over to kind of fill in halfway through the season. And then last guy really to talk about here, Eric Swanson, 57 games, 53 and 2/3 innings, 1.68 ERA, 1.85 FIP. And I know when you hear that, if you don't follow this team too much, you're gonna think I'm crazy saying the Mariners really kind of underutilized him, especially these last 2 years when he's been really, really good. He was kind of this third guy at the end of games behind Paul Sewald and Andres Munoz, but very, very good reliever here, headed out over to Toronto in the trade that we'll get to in just a second. Matthew Boyd, Ryan Borucki coming out of this bullpen here. Boyd really the only one, 13 and a third innings, 1.35 ERA, 3.19 FIP when he came back from injury. But now we'll go ahead and get into who the Mariners bring in. So in that trade with Toronto, the Mariners go ahead and add outfielder Teoscar Hernandez, 131 games last year, 807 OPS, 129 WRC plus, 2.4 FWAR, and again, by all accounts, a little bit of a down year offensively for him, slugging percentage mainly. So if that kind of bounces back up to where it's been more in 2021, 2020 as well. They were both very similar. I know 2020, weird year, very short season. Don't put too much into it, but if we see that slugging kind of bounce back up a little bit, maybe there's more offensively there. Colton Wong also comes over in a trade with the Brewers, 134 games, 769, nice OPS, 117 WRC plus, 2.5 FWAR. We've seen the power go up a little bit over the last season or two from him. Very solid everyday guy. The defense probably not quite what it used to be, but still probably very solid. AJ Pollock comes over, 138 games last year, 681 OPS, 92 WRC plus, but absolutely slaughtering left-handed pitching. So gonna kind of fill that backup outfielder DH role against lefties, probably primarily. Might see him a little bit in that DH role against righties. And then you've got LaStella, backup infielder, Gott coming over to fill one of these spots in the bullpen. So overall for the Mariners, you look at them, you had Frazier and Winker who underperformed really badly this last season on their way out, but Wong comes in to replace Frazier. I would call that an upgrade. Hernandez comes in to fill the spot in the outfield between Winker and Haniger, and if anything, man, Hernandez, even if you want to like kind of make the argument that offensively him and Haniger are about the same, Hernandez at least should be mostly healthy. Haniger has struggled with that, so if you can get most of a season out of Hernandez, that's going to be more than we've been getting with Haniger being hurt. That kind of goes as an upgrade as well. swapping out some role players here. Losing Swanson in the bullpen, again, I will say very, very solid reliever here. But to kind of look at it as to lose Swanson and, some of this kind of DH out, some of the like more backup outfield kind of role here, to be able to go ahead and upgrade second base and for sure one of those starting outfield spots, I'd call this a win in the offseason. I think the Mariners got a little bit better here, at least filling some of these bigger, needs on this team here and sending out some value that wasn't quite as needed. Now we get to Texas, our last team here. Guys heading out, you've got Cole Calhoun, 125 games, 587 OPS, 67 WRC plus, negative 1.1 FWAR. Very, very bad season this last year, but again, one of these guys that it'll be interesting to see how the shift going away affects him. You've got Culberson, Solak, White, also kind of all in these more bench roles here, along with Plawecki. Again, these are kind of guys that come and go on most teams, these kind of bench backup roles. Not anything too crazy there. Out of the bullpen, though, you've got Matt Moore headed out, 63 games, 74 innings with a 1.95 ERA and a 2.98 FIP. That's a ton of value in a bullpen there. Could potentially be quite a lot you're losing from the bullpen for Texas. And then these other two guys here, kind of some inconsistent numbers. I mean, a 2.18 ERA, but a 4.23 FIP. And then a 5.22 ERA, but a 3.35 FIP. So, I mean, really not totally sure what you've got headed out there. Who they're bringing in, though? The main guy who I'm not looking forward to facing very much, hopefully, I'm not hoping guys get hurt, but God, I don't want to have to face DeGrom. 11 starts last year. 64 and a thirds innings, really battled through injuries over these last 2 years. But man, when he's on the field, he's still one of, if not the best pitchers on the planet. 3.08 ERA, 2.13 FIP, 2.2 FWAR in that time. So if you figure roughly triple, his innings, the WAR there for a full season, you're talking 180 plus innings, probably more because I bet you some of these innings were cut short with these injuries. Well over 6 WAR. Again, 5 is all-star level. DeGrom is still DeGrom when he can play. It's just whether he stays healthy or not. You've also got Eovaldi and Heaney coming in to shore up the middle of this rotation. Eovaldi, 20 starts, 109 and a thirds innings, 3.87 ERA, but a 4.30 FIP is a little bit higher. Andrew Heaney, 16 games, 72 and 2/3 innings, so struggled with staying on the field a little bit, but a 3.10 ERA, 3.75 FIP, very good numbers there for him. Again, if you can get most of a season out of these two, shores up the middle of this rotation behind DeGrom there, also with Perez and Dunning and whoever else they're going to have in the rotation. Potentially here, kind of a swing guy, you bring in Jake Odorizzi. 22 starts last year, 106 and a thirds innings, but slotted to be in the bullpen. 4.40 ERA, 4.28 FIP. If those numbers come down a little bit more, because he can just kind of focus on going out there and shoving it in the bullpen for an inning or two rather than having to stretch it out, that fills a spot in your bullpen. And if somebody gets hurt, you have to replace him. This is a guy that can make starts and at least kind of fill in for you. So you also bring over Danny Duffy. Didn't play this last year, but maybe he finds a spot in this bullpen. Overall, I mean, you've got kind of some turnover here with the bullpen. I mean, losing Matt Moore is a big, big loss out of the bullpen. Lose just a couple bench guys, but you add an ace and shore up the middle of this rotation. The Rangers got better. Overall, man, this division could be an absolute dogfight. It's going to be really interesting to see. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think, though. Let's talk some baseball. Comment down below. What do you guys think about these teams' off seasons? Did I get these right? Did I get these wrong? Did they get better? Did they get worse? What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let's talk some ball. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, show your support, like the video, subscribe to the page, turn on notifications. Trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before spring training starts. I think we're a little over 50 away, so smash that subscribe button. We're done now covering all of these off seasons. If this is the first one you're seeing or you missed a couple, the playlist for this will be at the end of the video. Check that out. You can see all of the divisions, every team. We are gonna cover a whole bunch of different content on this channel, talking anything and everything going on throughout Major League Baseball. Make sure you stay tuned. Hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.